They're the closest ally in the Middle East because they're the only country in the entire Middle East that anyone in this country, these fucking hypocrites, would even survive for a week in. You wouldn't want to live.
I don't know if that's true anymore.
The explosive showdown between Bill Maher and Andrew Schulz. Did Maher really get triggered and start yelling? I watched this go down, and let me tell you, I'm firmly in Schultz's corner. We'll break down why Maher's arguments on free speech and even the US relationship with the Middle East completely missed the mark. You won't want to miss this unfiltered take.
Way always on the left. I mean, you said woke. I don't want to talk about woke. I'm always fucking with the woke. The woke hate me more than anybody for good reason. Because when I stick the knife into them when they deserve it, it goes right to the bone, which it should, because they don't believe in it either. So here's a case where, yes, emotionally, because I'm a supporter of Israel, I would like to see this guy out of the country. No, you can't just throw people out because you don't like their speech.
Especially if you give them or you grant them some form of, I don't know if he had a citizenship, maybe a visa or something like that, but you're essentially giving this
green card.
He has a green card. So if he has a green card, you're giving them the opportunities to be an American, exist as an American for this amount of years.
But if you have the green card, you do have the same rights as an American citizen.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, okay.
So we have to give that person those rights.
You have to.
As annoying as that is.
As annoying as it is.
You probably should have looked into his resume before you gave him the green card.
Because that's always what, and it's very hard to, I would say not more than 20% of the people in this country can you get on that opinion. Everybody else is just always going to go right to defending the speech of the people they like.
Yes, this is what we constantly do. We're hypocrites, but like
such hypocrites.
But this is the thing, we have to like this is where it gets frustrating, these arguments, is like if we know we're hypocrites, we can't cry about it. We have to meet people where they are.
Correct.
Right? So like I mean, I'm sure you've seen on Twitter, like everybody's talking about, you know, Israel, and like it seems like there's waning support in America for Israel.
Oh, absolutely.
So here's an example which you hear people say all the time. Like obviously the politicians have no clue how to communicate, most of them, and they're just like, well, this is our closest ally, and then you get asked why, and they go, oh, they don't know, because they're just being told that they're the closest ally.
Well, closest ally in the Middle East.
Regardless of what it is. It's like, I think
that's very important. They're the closest ally in the Middle East because they're the only country in the entire Middle East that anyone in this country, these fucking hypocrites, would even survive for a week in. You wouldn't want to live.
All right, folks. We're talking about the heated exchange between Bill Maher and Andrew Schulz on Maher's Club Random podcast. Now, there were definitely some sparks flying that caught my attention and frankly left me siding pretty firmly with Schulz on this one. For those who missed it, the conversation reportedly got pretty intense, with Maher seemingly getting triggered and even yelling at Schulz. The topic? Well, it seemed to meander a bit, touching on free speech, support for Israel, and even the rather broad and frankly often misused term, woke. But at its core, what struck me was the stark difference in how these two guys approach the issues. And it really highlights a growing divide in our country, even among those who claim to value open dialogue. Now, Schulz, from what I gathered, was making a pretty fundamental point about respecting the rights of individuals, even those whose views we might vehemently disagree with. The specific context involved a person with a green card, and the idea that you can't just throw someone out because you don't like what they say. I believe deeply in the First Amendment and the right to free speech. It's a cornerstone of our republic, and it applies to everyone within our borders, regardless of their background or how irritating their opinions might be. Schulz seemed to be the voice of reason here, pointing out the hypocrisy of defending free speech only when it aligns with our own viewpoints. We on the right have often been targets of censorship and deplatforming, so we should be especially vigilant against the urge to silence others, even when their speech is offensive or misguided. Maher, on the other hand, seemed to be driven more by emotion, particularly regarding his support for Israel. While I understand and share the sentiment of supporting our allies, especially in a volatile region like the Middle East, that support shouldn't come at the expense of fundamental American principles like due process and freedom of expression.
Yeah, I've been to Abu Dhabi.
UAE is not the Muslim world. If you're talking about
But they're
Dubai,
in the Middle East. That's what you're talking about.
Okay, but you're talking about a tiny, tiny percentage of what typical life is like in 60 Muslim countries. You're talking about a little enclave that they carved out so Westerners could come and spend their money.
Right.
We're talking about far less than 1% of the way life is like. You would not want to live even in a moderate country like Jordan, and your wife certainly wouldn't enjoy living there.
Yeah.
Okay?
You're making logical points.
Well, these are factual points.
Yeah, sure, they're factual.
They are.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's like, I gave you another option that is true.
Well, but it's
I think, matter of fact, I would even argue that life is more relatable to the average American in the UAE or in Dubai than it is in...
Again, but it's a disingenuous argument.
Why is it disingenuous?
Because I just told you.
You said you can't live there, and I was like, here's another place.
Because it's not typical. I said the entire Middle East. So if so look, here's the thing. All right. If I say, you have to move somewhere in America, and I'm going to throw a dart at a map with a blindfold on, and could you survive anywhere else in America where you absolutely could. You could live in Salt Lake City. You could live anywhere in America. If I throw a dart at a map of the entire, all 60 Muslim majority countries, will you say you'll live there?
I could survive in every single one of them.
You couldn't.
How no?
What?
How could I not? I'm not a gay guy. I could live in any single one of them.
In Kabul, your wife would have to wear a head-to-toe burqa every...
That's on her.
Okay.
You're talking about me surviving. You're like, I could live very comfortably.
Frankly, the reports of Maher getting triggered and losing his mind don't paint a picture of someone engaging in a thoughtful debate. It suggests a certain level of intellectual inflexibility or reluctance to truly consider opposing viewpoints. This is a trap that anyone, regardless of their political leaning, can fall into. But it's particularly disappointing to see from someone who often positions himself as a champion of open discourse. Furthermore, Maher's argument about not being able to survive for a week in the Middle East struck me as overly dramatic and, frankly, bordering on xenophobic. Schulz rightly called out this kind of Western brainwashing and propaganda. While there are certainly cultural differences and legitimate safety concerns in some parts of the Middle East, to paint the entire region with such a broad brush is not only inaccurate but also fuels prejudice. As conservatives, we believe in strong borders and a robust national defense. But that doesn't mean we should demonize entire populations or cultures.
Like, again, let's not move the goalposts. You're asking if I could live comfortably.
You could live with yourself knowing that that's how women are treated in your world.
I hate this moral argument. Like, we give a fuck about women around the world. Like, no, but this is like...
Yeah, you said you'd be happy.
This is such a bullshit argument.
This is such a bullshit argument.
No, I didn't say happy. I said I could live. You keep moving the goalposts.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Let's stay on what you say. I could live easily in every single one of the countries outside of the wars that are existing. But you're saying in peacetime?
Easily?
Easily. You live easily.
You could easily live in Kabul, Afghanistan.
Is there a war happening? Is the Taliban doing their thing?
No war. No war. So war's over.
War's over? I could kick it in Kabul for a month easy. Enjoying life. Now, am I doing stand-up every night? No. But could I take a little vacation?
I don't know if you're kidding with me.
I'm just telling you, I think that...
I'll give you two options. Either you're kidding or this is stupid.
Well, that's this pretentious ass shit.
It's not pretentious.
You're doing the thing that
it's not pretentious.
You are doing the
that
thing
you could live in Kabul and be happy.
The conversation also touched on the complex relationship between the United States and Israel. The notion that Israel is our closest ally in the Middle East is a common talking point. While I agree that our alliance with Israel is strategically important, particularly in the face of shared threats, we also need to have an honest and critical assessment of this relationship. The idea that Israel has a stranglehold on U.S. politics due to financial influence, while perhaps stated strongly, raises legitimate questions about the role of lobbying on foreign aid. As conservatives, we are generally skeptical of excessive government spending and the influence of special interest groups. While supporting a key ally is crucial, we also have a responsibility to American taxpayers to ensure that our foreign policy decisions are in our national interest and are made with transparency and accountability. The comments about politicians blindly supporting Israel without understanding why resonate with a broader concern many conservatives have about career politicians being out of touch with the concerns of everyday Americans.
You're doing
It's
this thing that gets...
It's not virtue signaling to say...
I didn't say virtue signaling, but that is, if you don't agree with me, you're dumb, is why Trump is elected. And this is what Democrats do.
Yeah, but sometimes dumb is dumb.
Yeah, but people are dumb. So deal with that shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, stop acting like everybody's smart. Like, this is the problem, is like, you have all these people that go to Ivy League schools and they're like, we know better than everybody else and we'll just tell you what to do and you guys are all stupid and I know you feel like you want this, but you don't really want this. And if you disagree with me, you're an idiot. Then all of a sudden they go, you know what? Fuck you guys. I'm voting for that one. It's very simple.
Yeah, that's true too.
So we can't speak down to people if we know that they're going to react emotionally. I guess what I'm trying to say is, even with the like, for example, the Israel conversation, right? So if I know people are reacting emotionally to this, right? Who is the burden on, if we have this deep connection with Israel, which I believe we do, right? I think the burden is on Israel to prove to the American people, who definitely they rely on for support in this conflict. I think that the burden is on them to communicate to the American people why it's advantageous to America to continue to support them. Like, and if they can't communicate a reason, you can't be upset at the American people for being confused about it. We have that same energy towards Ukraine. We go, wait a minute, they're getting how many $1 billion? Okay, over here, if eggs were cheap, I don't care about where you throw the money. But once eggs get expensive, I start going, where's the money going? $200 million going over there? So when economic times are very difficult here in America, or any country in the world, there's going to be some questions asked about where this money is going.
As there should be.
As they should be. I think it's a very normal thing. And unfortunately for Jews, when economic times turn shitty in countries, people start looking and they go, I think it might be there.
Maher's comment about being with the woke, but also having the woke hate me more than anybody, is interesting. It highlights a frustration that many on the center left and even some liberals are starting to feel with the excesses of what is often labeled wokeness. We've been raising concerns about these trends for years. The intolerance for dissenting opinions, the focus on identity politics to the exclusion of broader principles, and the tendency toward moral grandstanding. However, Maher's apparent emotional outburst against Schultz seemed to contradict his claim of valuing open debate. It suggests that even those who critique wokeness can still fall victim to their own forms of ideological rigidity. True intellectual honesty requires a willingness to engage with challenging viewpoints calmly and respectfully. Ultimately, this exchange between Bill Maher and Andrew Schulz, as reported in these excerpts, offers a valuable lesson for all of us. We need to be consistent in our defense of free speech, even when it's uncomfortable. We need to approach complex foreign policy issues with both conviction and critical thinking. And we need to be wary of emotional reasoning and ideological echo chambers regardless of our political persuasion. I applaud Andrew Schulz for standing his ground and advocating for fundamental principles. And I hope that Bill Maher, a figure who has often challenged conventional wisdom, will take a moment to reflect on this exchange. What do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. For more unfiltered perspectives, we'll catch you next time.